What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to our second episode of Bench Warmers. It's your host, Loami Richardson, aka Lo, and my co-host, Jono Castillo. Jonathan, what's going on, my brother? How you living?
I'm good. We're back. We're back better than ever. Super excited for this episode. A lot to sound off on. It's been a fantastic week of sports, and I'm just super excited to get right into it.
For sure. You know what I'm saying? As we dropped our first episode, we got a lot of good feedback, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to just hopefully progressively get better as we, get comfortable with what the topics that the people want to hear and talk about. So this episode, right, we're going to diversify a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the LA Dodgers winning their first championship in 32 years. And I know Jono's about to sound off because I got to say, man, listen, I'm a basketball football head. We're both Mets fans, but I'm not like a baseball enthusiast. And so when Jono was like, "Yo, did you watch the game?" Oh, I'm mad tight. I was like, "All right, bet." So he's gonna sound off on the Tampa Bay Rays, and we're gonna get right into the show today. So we're gonna start off by talking about the LA Dodgers are world champions, first title in over 30 years. 1988 was the last time that they won a championship. Am I correct?
Yeah. 1988 against the Oakland Athletics. Last time they won a title. So big shout out to the Dodgers. I'm sure LA is going nuts right now. They are the city of champs, title town.
Titletown is title town, man. You know what I'm saying? They low key, I was rooting for the Rays. As a Florida boy, I always like to root for the underdog in those type of series. The Dodgers had a crazy roster, just the money that they spent on that roster. And then you got Tampa Bay, who spent, not even a quarter of that, competing with the best of them, man. So, but the Dodgers finally got lifted that monkey off their back. I know that this was a huge win for that city. One of my good friends, he's a Dodgers fan, and he was avoiding watching the championship series right before the World Series because he was like, "Yo, I've been disappointed and disheartened way too much, bro." So I shouted him out. I reached out to him. I was like, congrats. And he said, "Man, this is a big historic win for the Dodgers. It's actually more important that the Dodgers won than the Lakers, just because it's the one team that everyone kind of unifies around, regardless if you're Mexican, Korean, white, black." And so he was kind of sharing a little bit about the Jackie Robinson history, which, so you have connections from, people in Brooklyn. And so anyway, he was really explaining that to me. Actually, check this out, Jono. He just sent me an email. He says the Dodgers is a generational institution in Los Angeles and is seen by being the most attendance in Major League Baseball for years because of LA's commitment to diversity. Jackie Robinson, Venezuela, Nomo, Chan Ho, Park, Ryu, all of these guys. It is the glue that binds the city together. Asians, Latinos, blacks, whites all come to Dodger Stadium. This means everything to the city. The Dodgers itself is an icon in LA, from Vince Scully's announcing to the habitus LA Blue Hats. I would argue it is equal or to even more than the Dodgers. The city goes in emotional lull when they lose. It has brought a sense of hope to the city even more than the Laker victory in some ways, because in 32 years in the making. And so this is what he literally just sent me an email, because I sent him that text message. So you can understand why this Dodgers championship means so much to the city, man. What was your thoughts on the World Series in LA, winning their championship?
Yeah, big shout out to the Dodgers. And like you mentioned, this was huge for LA. I mean, they built a team 2015 to compete for a title. They fired a manager, hired a new one, and Dave Roberts, who was supposed to get them over the mountaintop per se, and they finally did it. My thoughts on the World Series was it was a phenomenally played World Series between two teams. Where I'm a little bit upset at, and I'm sounding off on this, is the analytical part of baseball. Look, I've been watching baseball. I've followed baseball my entire life. My very first baseball game was the Yankees and Mariners when Ken Griffey Jr. played in Yankee Stadium, a young Derek Jeter, a young Alex Rodriguez. And mind you, I'm like 9 years old when this is going on. But now, looking at it, how monumental that moment was for myself, I just the way baseball has frustrated me. And I've seen this as a Mets fan. I've seen this as a baseball fan. Game 6 of the World Series, your Cy Young pitcher is throwing the game of his life. He's not even through 6 innings. He's given up 1 hit. He struck out 9 batters. And let me tell you this, Lo, the first 3 batters that he's faced, he struck out not once, twice, each of them. And that's the lineup that he had in that 6th inning. And they took him out because he gave up a double with 1 out. Look, I'm upset.
Yeah, I think that was the one question that everyone's like, why are they pulling him out? And yes, we understand the analytics, has infiltrated in all major sports, whether it be football, basketball, baseball. But in that situation, as a casual baseball fan, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, like, the eyeball test says keep him in, right? Like, the man has been pitching a heck of a game. Why are you pulling him out? And, when you're in a zone, just leave him in. You know what I'm saying? You have to ride with your best players. That's just coaching one-on-one. If your player is hot, you keep him in until you can't anymore. So I know you was tight about that. And so I think, they probably ruined themselves an opportunity to really win the World Series because we know of the COVID testing that happened just later on in that game.
That's another thing that got me upset.
Yeah. So we can talk about the COVID thing and all of that. How is it? What's a whole boy's name?
Justin Turner.
Yeah, is it on Justin Turner? Is it the MLB's fault for announcing it and pulling him and then leaving it up to him? Neither here or there. The point is that I for the life of me did not understand what Snail was being pulled out.
Yeah, I don't get it.
You was just upset because that was an analytical move. That was it. That's all it was.
And look, the 2004 Red Sox, they did the whole analytical thing. The Moneyball Athletics, the Oakland A's, they did the Moneyball thing, and it worked, right? It worked. The 2004 Red Sox, they won the World Series. It worked. The Cubs put together an analytical team as well, and it worked for them. So look, analytics works. However, when you are in game 6, of the World Series, and it's a do or die situation, you have to win this game. To me, analytics goes out the door. You have to do everything possible to win the game and put your team in a position to win. And the most frustrating part of that, just as a baseball fan, is not that they took him out, is who they put in. They put in a pitcher who has been struggling in the postseason against a right-hand batter who has been dominating right-handed pitchers. Mookie Betts was batting, I don't know if this number is absolutely correct, but he was batting below 250 against left-handers. Why would you take him out? Compared to batting above 350 versus right-handers. I just don't understand it.
So let me ask you this, because here's why I think people, at least for myself, I was so interested outside of the Tampa Bay Lightning winning the Stanley Cup Finals, and you're kind of rooting for the Rays to win it, and then you're like kind of hoping that Tampa Bay Buccaneers make it to the Super Bowl because that'll be a trifecta. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But I know that we mentioned that the Dodgers won with over $200 million payroll, and the Rays with $28 million in payroll. So, but what got them there was analytics, right?
Right.
So
you're right. I mean,
what got him there was the very thing that you're hating on right now.
Right. Yeah. True.
But with the Dodgers, they just have phenomenal talent. So let me ask you this: do you think that the Dodgers paid that championship? That championship was bought because they spent so much money on that roster, showing that the Rays has shown that you can compete on a high level with very minimum. So what are your thoughts on money needing to be spent in order for you to compete for a World Series, especially as a Mets fan? I'd really like to know your thoughts on that.
I think that's a great question. And growing up in New York, you see how much the Yankees have spent to win all the World Series that they've won throughout the years. And it's business, right? I mean, you've got to pay for what you get for, and when you pay for a Kershaw and a Mookie Betts and guys like a Corey Seager who's going to get paid, I have no problem with the way they went about getting their World Series. As a Mets fan, I would love for our Mets to,
To
pay
spend
up.
$200 million on
I
it.
would love that, but when you
Yeah.
have the money to pay for the players that you want, by all means, do whatever it takes. And if that's how it gets you a World Series title, then that's how it is. And it worked for the Dodgers. I mean, we looked at the analyticals and we talk about the payrolls with the Rays. It works for them because
Mhm.
one, where they are in market, they can't afford a guy like Mookie Betts. They can't afford a guy like Clayton Kershaw. So their highest paid player, Charlie Morton's only getting $5.2 million. Their best
Mm.
player, the Cuban guy, Arozarena, he's getting $90,000 a year, and this guy's a
Wow.
stud. But it
Yeah.
works for Tampa, and it kind of goes in relation to basketball. When you live and die by the three ball, and some days you do very well, and some days you don't. You live and die by analytics. Analytics got him there. Analytics burned them down, essentially.
And so
And
it looks
it's unfortunate.
you was gonna say as you was talking, there's something I wanted to kind of highlight. A team like Tampa Bay Rays, with that roster, with the talent that they have and the money, these top players are getting paid, they can only last for so long because at some point they're gonna want to get paid. So this is why you kind of looking at the Rays, you're like, yo, this is a beautiful scenario, right? That but talent supersedes analytics at times. And I think the Dodgers, they finally put this thing together because I know Kershaw, not Kershaw, was the starting pitcher.
Kershaw.
Yeah, Kershaw. Yeah, he
big
had
shout
to
out
that.
to Kershaw. He deserves
Yeah,
that
he
ring.
finally got the monkey off his back, and he delivered a championship for the Dodgers organization. So I know that this title meant a lot for the city of LA. I think a little bit more than the Lakers for the reasons that we stated before. So shout out to the LA Dodgers. Yeah, shout out to the LA Dodgers. I said Dodgers. I don't know what a Danger is, but LA Dodgers, for winning their first championship. Jono was even thought of being born. And I ain't gonna tell you how old I was the last time they won. But nonetheless, LA Dodgers, shout out World Series champions. Man, they're gonna have to do a parade soon. I know this COVID is really causing people not to
LeBron was talking about that actually. He was trying to talk about doing about a socially distanced parade, which I don't know how that would even take place, just because I would imagine there'd be millions and millions of people wanting to celebrate both cities in LA. So
yeah, well, it will be interesting to see, but definitely something to celebrate. And I think that city has suffered a lot with the loss of Kobe, and just with the tragedies with the fires and everything. So it's been good for LA to see. So we're going to talk about, because we was talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, and for me, I was kind of rooting for them. They're kind of the local home team. They were the underdogs, and so one of the biggest things that that's going to be happening this year is that the Super Bowl is in Tampa. Right, so I was kind of hoping the trifecta. Man, we get the Stanley Cup, we get the World Series. Oh, if Tom Brady can get the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl, how legit is that? So just to let you guys know, I am a Patriots fan. Jono is a Giants fan, so I don't know how we're friends. Yeah, I don't know how we're friends at all, knowing that the Giants have ruined the opportunity of a perfect season and a Super Bowl. So Brady could have had easily 8, but thanks to the Giants, that is not the case. And so we're going to talk about Tom Brady at this moment. Tom Brady, we just got news that AB is going to be signing on to be a wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gronkowski is coming into his own. He's looking a little bit more healthy. Brady's getting familiar with the offense. That defense seems to be clicking. So everyone's looking at Tampa Bay and saying, you know what? That's a Super Bowl contending team. So my question is for you, Mr. I don't know if you're a Tom Brady hater. I don't know if you're like on Max Kellerman's level, but do you believe it's Tom Brady's Super Bowl or bust for him this year?
100%. I agree with that statement. First off, I question Brady's decision to go to Tampa, but I realized he went to Tampa because he now has in Tampa what he wished he had in New England for all these years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you question him going to Tampa? Listen, I'm a Patriots fan, and it's a struggle to see what Cam Newton is working with this. We have no skilled players.
I mean, it puts it into perspective, right? What Brady has been able to do for his entire career. I mean, he's never had what he has in Tampa.
Right.
He's never had that. I mean, he's won with Chris Hogan, a lacrosse player, for I mean,
A bunch
nothing
of white
against
boys
Chris
as
Hogan.
receivers.
I mean, Julian Edelman was a college quarterback, a 7th-round pick college quarterback, and he's turning into one of the better receivers in the NFL, which is great. I like his game. But Brady goes into a situation where Tampa arguably has the best defense in the league right now, with a coach who is just go play, hard-nosed guy who's been around the game for a long time, and probably the best offense in the NFL right now. And then he gets AB. Oh, Super Bowl champion or bust. There's no sky the limit for Tampa right now. It's Super Bowl champion or bust. And I'm sure that Russell Wilson in Seattle has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, this idea is Super Bowl or bust. You have 2 years, to get this thing together. Tom Brady signed a 2-year contract. So, if you don't win it this year, the chances of you winning in the following year becomes a little bit more difficult. So I think that's sometimes we look at that, and at least for myself, this pressure of him winning. But I don't think anybody expected Tampa Bay to be in that position until Tom Brady showed up, right? There was an expectation he's going to cut down on the turnovers at Jameis Winston. 30 interceptions last year. You cut that by half. They win 2 or 3 of those games last year. But with that talent, bro, with the game of the NFL more than the NBA or even baseball to a lesser extent, football specifically, it's a game of inches, right? Like this is why it's very hard to repeat in the NFL, because you got to have some tough, some lucky breaks, for things to go your way. So currently constructed, Tampa Bay has the talent to compete with anybody, especially a team like Kansas City, which is the Super Bowl champions. And they seem like, there's been teams that in games that they play tight niche, and then, your boy does what he does. The QB from Kansas City,
Patty Mahomes, baby.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. He does what he does, and so they seem like they are the team to beat. But I don't think they're a Super Bowl or bust. I believe if Brady gets them to even the NFC Championship, I think they're going to look at Tom Brady and say it was a successful season, because nobody saw that Tampa Bay going that far. Now, I think for Brady, for himself, he wants to win a championship and kind of stick it to Bill Belichick. So he may have like a fuel that's driving him, but I don't think it's a Super Bowl or bust. He's 43 years old, 44 years old. The fact that he's doing what he's doing now is amazing. So are you going to fault him if he doesn't win the Super Bowl? I don't know.
No, I'm not going to fault him, but I think you put yourself in a position in Brady's duration of his career where it has to be compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, when Peyton Manning left Indianapolis and went to Denver, he didn't do so because let me just sign 5 years, $100 million and just retire on the sunset. He did so because he put himself in a position where he can win another Super Bowl with what Denver was building themselves around. And eventually it happened. Although the contracts are a little different, 5 years versus 2, Brady's window is short. I mean, having that kind of championship window in sports in general, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to win in sports. And Brady has won 6 times with rosters that, if we look at it, we're like, wow, these guys really perform this way. And now, I mean, he's got Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, he's got Goodwin in the slot, he got Gronk, one of his best buddies, playing, like you mentioned, at an all-time level right now, or just getting to that all-time level.
Yeah, he's getting back into
his defense. I mean, his defense is absolutely phenomenal. And last year, the Patriots were number 1 in defense. Let's not forget that. But they didn't have the offensive weapons to get Brady past the first round against Tennessee last year. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
And I think that signing with Antonio Brown just makes life easier for because you got to pick your poison. You got to pick.
How do you guard them?
Yeah,
you can't double cover Mike Evans. You can't double cover Antonio Brown. Brady, we know, is a play action legend. The middle of the field is going to be wide open. I mean, how do you honestly play them?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for matchup. But again, just because you have, you look at the Cleveland Browns, they have a bunch of talent on the offensive end. But, Baker Mayfield, not that I'm comparing Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield, but the point is that we look at that roster and we say, oh, this is an 11-game team. I think now, that O-line needs to really hold it together. They got to give Brady time in the pocket, to be able to, get the ball out. So it's really going to be dependent on that offensive line, because there's going to be days that Tampa Bay is going to look great, and there's going to be other times that is going to be a really grinded out game. And so I don't think it's a Super Bowl or bust. I think that they have the best chance to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't think we're going to hold it against Tom Brady if he loses it and say, well, dang, with that talent, we hope they succeed. But I don't think there was a lot of expectations for the Tampa Bay. They're looking at the Ravens. We're looking at Pittsburgh. They're talking more about Pittsburgh this year than they are Tampa Bay. And golly, I don't know why Dallas Cowboys keep getting all of the headlines. Like, they haven't done anything in almost a decade, in the last 20 years.
That's the typical Dallas fans for you.
Yeah. But the point is that I don't think there's this overwhelming pressure for Brady to win. They're looking at Lamar Jackson. They're looking at Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and I think Brady, I think he likes the fact that he's kind of under the radar and catch people by surprises. But man, that team, that on paper, man, if AB can just not act foolish and cause any chemistry issues, and that O-line can hold Brady up to, at the end of the day, he shows he can still distribute that ball evenly. AB is going to be a major, huge, and you said that defense is coming together, man, for sure. Now I know that the question has been brought up: was this Brady's best team or defense he's ever had? Talent-wise, yes, this is the best talent that Brady has ever played with, and just with his IQ of the game is going to make the guys around him better. And I think they kind of buy into knowing, hey, if I don't get 10, 11 catches a game and we're winning, we're going to be good. I think they kind of have that respect for Brady. He brings that, that leadership, that presence there. And so, man, I think Tampa Bay has a great chance. The other team in the NFC, I believe, can compete with them is all dependent on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. So those are the two teams in the NFC. And the AFC, man, that's going to be a slugfest. And I think the champions, whoever wins the championship, more than likely will come out of the AFC. But Tom Brady, Super Bowl or bust? I don't think it's a bust if he doesn't win it this year.
Let me ask you this, Lo. What does this mean for Tom Brady's legacy if he does win the Super Bowl?
If he's not already solidified as the greatest quarterback of all time, it does so. Hey, he said it best. He says, listen, I've been married to an organization for 20 years. I've been only dating these people for 3 months, right? And if he can take this team in 1 year to the Super Bowl and win it, bro, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be questioning Brady really was the reason why Belichick won those championships, only because you're seeing what's happening in New England. And the thing that Brady was complaining about is that we don't have enough skill players. We don't have receivers. And Belichick, okay, we'll just, Cam Newton dropped on their lap, and he hasn't been playing well ever since he got, diagnosed with COVID. Everything's been kind of off. I don't know what's going on, but it just, from the first 3 games of the season to the last 2, of course he missed 2 weeks and practice. So, but everybody's dealing with this pandemic. So there's really no excuse to say, well, the Patriots, they had to close down the facility and all this other stuff. They need to get it together. And I think if Brady wins with a Super Bowl this year and the Patriots are struggling the way that they are, there's going to be a lot of people, including myself, who's going to look at Belichick and say, maybe it was Tom Brady. It wasn't a system. It was Brady himself. That's my thoughts. That's my opinion about that.
I hear that. No, I agree with you. I mean, that was the biggest thing that a lot of people talked about, right? When Brady decided to go to Tampa. Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? And we'll find out. We'll find out in February. Maybe we get a New England and Tampa Super Bowl. Who knows?
Yeah, no, for sure. That would be great. If we can get Tampa Bay for the Super Bowl, I'll be masked up, but I definitely would like to be around the area to see the GOATs, compete for a 7th ring, man. So we're going to transition right now because, we're going to talk about the thing. We actually had more about a conversation about this than all the other topics. And we were going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. And we know KD is coming back from his Achilles injury. Steve Nash as a head coach. Then you get Amari Stoudemire stat, shout out to Amari, Florida boy. You know, he's on the staff, and I'm like, it's like a AAU player coach staff. And then we just get word today that Mike D'Antoni is going to be the assistant coach for the Brooklyn Nets. So I'm like, all right, this is Phoenix 2000.
Yeah, for real.
2008. You know what I mean? Like, what is going
That's
on?
exactly what the headline said. That is honestly what the headline said. It said D'Antoni rejoins Nash and Amari. I.e. Phoenix 2008 or 2005, whenever it was that they implemented the pick and roll system. So I don't know, man. I'm very on edge about Steve Nash as a coach. I don't.
What are your reservations about him?
I mean, what's his system? Pick and roll? I mean, I don't.
We know what the system is going to be. We know what the system is going to be now.
I mean, I know. So he's been around two systems, right? He's been around the pick and roll system with D'Antoni, and then he's been around the shooting, best shot scenario system with Steve Kerr. Is he going to implement both those systems? I don't know. I've never seen him as a coach. I never thought that he would be a coach. So the fact that he got probably one of the best jobs that was available in Brooklyn, just with the situation that they have there, I just question if the players will, relate to his style of coaching, what his style of coaching would even be like. And listen, being in New York, it's not easy. I mean, he is in the middle of New York. Probably the Nets are now bigger than the Knicks currently. We know this with the players that they have and the ownership there and just the culture that's in Brooklyn. The media, I mean, if he loses the first 10 games out of 15, the media is going to eat him alive. Like, can he be okay with that? I mean, we'll find out.
Yeah, I think everything hinges. And I know you got to let them know what shirt you're wearing today, because I'm about to go on your boy right now. Yes,
represent Duke,
everything hinges on Kyrie Irving. Everything hinges on that man. I think that KD, he's soft skinned, right? I think but he's just gonna go out there and do whatever. Kyrie, every team that he has gone to, he has not made them better. Before Correct. LeBron got to Cleveland, it's not like he elevated them to the playoffs. When he went to Boston, he actually made them worse chemistry-wise because when he didn't play, that team clicked far better. And you see with Kemba Walker there, they played far more, cohesive than Kyrie. So now you're going, is Steve Nash going to hold him accountable? Now that you have Mike D'Antoni there, it's a very point guard friendly type offense that he runs. You know what I mean? The problem is what are you going to do with, with DJ? What are you going to do, with Carl? What are you going to do with all these guys who, are rim protectors? Are you going to go small ball? Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I know people were kind of excited because it's Steve Nash, but he has no coaching experience, and he's dealing with guys who got big egos, right? Guys who have been disruptive in the locker room. KD was in a perfect situation in Golden State. And he was kind of a disruptor. He didn't like Steve Kerr, right? It was too demanding. Whatever it was that he had his issues there with, with him. But he's playing with his buddy KD. I mean, with Kyrie. So if KD and Kyrie have that buddy relationship, are they going to come to the point they're like, yo, bump everybody, let's just do us? Is that going to be, the key to success? So I think that's really what's going to be hindered. I think it's really going to hinder on Kyrie Irving. I think Mike D'Antoni is going to at this point, Steve Nash is a face, and D'Antoni's going to be the brains of that operation. I think they brought in the assistant coach, Ika. What's the assistant coach from the
Udoka?
Yes,
like that.
yes.
I probably butchered that name. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know. I didn't even remember the name. So the fact that you butchered it, you're one up on me. But are they going to be able to play defense, bro? Are they going to be able to compete talent wise? Man, they're up there with Boston. I don't even think Miami can compete with them on a talent level. Just,
I agree.
Yeah, just on a talent level. But again, it all boils down to coaching. And so I'm not super excited. I saw, they brought in Amari. I'm like, What is going on
Yeah,
here?
the Amari thing, I don't understand that. I
Is
mean,
he going to be a big man coach? What a coach is he going to be?
I don't know, man. I don't even think he can be like a stretch big man coach. And no disrespect to Amari because I was a big fan of his,
Right,
but I don't see the fit. I mean, there's
right.
a bunch of first time coaches on the staff. Obviously, you mentioned D'Antoni being the brains behind everything. I just don't know where everything meshes, right? You can have that player coach relationship, but when it comes to crunch time and Steve Nash has to demand a huddle and draw something up for Kyrie or KD or Cherish Levert or pick and roll for DJ, I mean, what, has he ever been in that situation before? You know what I mean? Like, obviously as a player and coaching now, sometimes you put yourself in those shoes. Like, what would I do? What would I want to see? What matchup is the best that I want to go at? But at the end of the day, you're dealing with Kyrie and you're dealing with KD. So my
Yeah,
question to you, Lo, with that being said, is who takes that final shot?
it has to be KD. There has to be an established. I mean, from the get, that KD is taking the final shot. He is your go-to guy. Especially in clutch situations. You can have Kyrie kind of take over the offense, right, throughout the game, and KD picks his spots. But when it comes to crunch time, I mean, that's what you brought KD for. I'm really curious to see how that Kyrie KD relationship and chemistry is going to work, because I know that Steph Curry he's a very unselfish point guard. He didn't
Correct.
really care who took the last shot. Kyrie, when he gets in his little moods, he's going to take 30 shots, ill-devised shots, and not get the offense flowing. So this is why it's interesting that Mike D'Antoni is there. Is it going to be, driving to the basket, which Kyrie is probably one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard in the NBA, making buckets around the basket. Is it going to be, layups and threes, as we saw in Houston? Is it going to be more of a, evenly distributed, offense where, you're going to, the three tiers to the basket, mid-range, and 3-point. I don't know, but KD has to be the guy. And I know he's coming off an Achilles heel. It's not like he relies so much on his athleticism, meaning he doesn't have to jump high. He doesn't have to.
Right.
He's a skilled player, so I don't think this Achilles is really going to affect him as much. So even if we see like a dip in KD's game in the sense of explosiveness, but I never saw him as explosive. He just knew how to
I
utilize
mean, he's 7 feet.
right. He just knew how to utilize his length to his advantage. So if he comes back healthy, he's gonna drop easily 25 points a game. Again, I think this whole thing makes everything, the success of the Brooklyn Nets is going to be dependent on Kyrie Irving. And here's, I got to say this, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So often we looked at the bubble, right? We was looking at the gameplay of the bubble, Carl doing his thing. The Mets was able to really play with less, right? They was able to maximize the little bit that they have. But now all of these guys are going to have to take a step back, right? They're not going to play, the Spencer Dinwiddie, Spence. Is he going to continue doing what he's doing? Too much talent. And I don't know, again, is Kyrie going to say, hey, the team can be much more successful if I average 17 points, distribute the ball, 6-7 assists a game. KD is the man. But again, we don't know what this is going to look like. So just on the talent alone, I think Brooklyn's will be a top 3 team in the East for sure. I think the top four will be Miami, will be up there, the Bucks, the Brooklyn Nets, and did I miss anybody? Who's
I
up
would say
thinking?
the Raptors would probably be in the top,
Oh yeah,
top
Raptors.
5, top 4.
Raptors will round up the top 4.
What do you think about this comparison, right? Both KD and Kyrie are ball dominant scoring players. I think of them the way I thought of Allen Iverson and Carmelo playing in Denver. Who takes the night off and who puts up the most shots? And I don't mean that in the sense where one guy is going to ball hog the most, but if KD is hot, I mean, you keep feeding KD.
Right.
But if they're both hot, how do they play off each other? Now, I always thought that Kyrie and LeBron was the perfect complement to each other the way they played. Because LeBron didn't need the ball in his hands. He was just a
Right.
playmaker. He wasn't a
Right.
scorer. He just knew how to make plays. And Kyrie was the guy who went out and got the bucket, who was able to get 40 with LeBron on a nightly basis if he really wanted to, let's be honest. So I wonder, and I thought about this here, but with Melo and Iverson and Denver and KD and Kyrie together, is that a fair comparison?
Not necessarily. Here's why. Iverson was kind of in the, downhill of his career. I think he was still trying to hold on to the AI in Philly that took their team to the finals. And he was a natural scorer. Here's the thing with Melo. Yes, he is a ball stopper. What KD has shown in Golden State is that he's not a ball stopper. He can play within the offense. He's a very efficient scorer. He only has to take 16, 17 shots a game, and he can give you 22 points a game easily, right? So he doesn't need to be ball dominant. Kyrie needs the ball in order for him to get his points. My biggest question would be for Kyrie, can he be a distributor? Can he jumpstart the offense? So I understand the comparison you're making in regards to two offensive-minded guys, but when it comes to efficiency, I thought KD was far more efficient than Melo was ever, just because of Golden State. He showed that he doesn't have to take 30, 40 shots. There was times that he had to, and he elevated to that point. But within the offensive structure, he can take 15 shots and still be effective, and he's a threat on the court. So I think KD will be a lot more selfless than Kyrie will. So you're probably going to see KD, in my opinion, kind of take a step back and let Kyrie, do his thing. That's just me. Yeah. I may be completely wrong just based on the personality, because, but if KD, I'm really curious to see how that thing clicked, because as you said, LeBron IQ was so great. He's a playmaker, so it fit well for Kyrie's skill set. But you got two guys, who's gonna facilitate that offense? Because it can't be a James Harden, Russell Westbrook thing. It was like, all right, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. Nah, that's gonna be disastrous. So then Tony, if that system if it's anything similar to what they did in Houston, then it's gonna be a free for all and it's gonna be fun for everybody to play. But then who's gonna make stops when it's all said and done?
Yeah, which is why I'm very interested to see what Steve Nash's system is going to be. I know when they all played together in Phoenix, Nash, Amari, and D'Antoni, they mastered the 7-second, shot. Every 7 seconds, a shot was going up. Do they bring it back? I don't think in today's NBA that works. But it's going to be interesting to find out. I mean, with the talent that they have, with the roster that they have, are they another one? NBA Finals or bust. The East is relatively weak per se. I mean, the only team that I think that they would have, to face in the playoffs and have a good challenge with is maybe Boston, maybe Miami. I do think they beat the Bucks. To your point, obviously with defense, I question defense as well. But for Brooklyn and what they put together, do you feel like it's championship or bust?
No. But I mean, there's no expectations for Brooklyn. I think they'll give you a very fun style of basketball, but that franchise hasn't been in existence for that long for them to say, well, we got to win a championship or bust type atmosphere. So as long as they're in the top 2, top 3 in the East, they're competing, get into the Eastern Conference Finals and finals here and there. I think that franchise will be set. And again, all depends on Kyrie, but it all depends on Kyrie, his mood, his attitude. Is he going to buy in? And we don't know what KD is going to look like, but I believe just because he's not so reliant on his explosiveness, that he'll be fine with that Achilles heel. But we're going to talk about something that was mentioned in our last podcast together. We were mentioning that the NBA is going to start Christmas Day. So Adam Silver, that's kind of what the where's things going to be heading. But Danny Green made a comment about the NBA restart, and that if they start in December, that they're not going to begin the final month or the first month of the season. So
I can't believe this.
Listen, first of all, Danny Green, just shut up, stop talking, man. Like and no disrespect to him in regards, he's a solid basketball player, champion, stand-up guy. He's not a jerk. So I'm not saying just be quiet in that regards. You have a voice, you have an opinion, but why are you talking, in regards to what LA should be doing? Right? Like,
Right.
hit some shots, play your role. If anything, let LeBron speak for himself. That's just how I feel about it. But I'm kind of irritated because it's like, I understand that we're in a pandemic. Not everything, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So I want my money, but at the same time, I don't want to play. Listen, I understand that you just ended a season and you're only maybe getting a 2-month break, but you had a 4-month break prior to that bubble restarting. So it's not like you wasn't traveling, right? So it wasn't all this wear and tear. So you can't say, yeah, we want to start later, because the later that you start, the less money you receive. The reason why they're able to start on time is because they're getting the local deal money, right? And so as long as you want that contract, the way that it is, you're gonna have to play some games. What are your thoughts on Danny Green's, saying that the Lakers are gonna take a month off and all of this
I'm
other stuff?
disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I heard Stephen A. Say this on First Take, and I just want to put this in perspective that local TV deals, if they move back the NBA startup, or just don't televise as many games as they did this past bubble, they're losing like 400 to 600 million dollars. That's the trajectory there.
Right,
So from a business standpoint, look, if my 9 to 5 told me that I had to come in so I can get paid, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in.
right.
I think we put a lot of expectations on athletes, and rightfully so, because they perform at a high level, and they entertain us fans, and they work hard for their money. I'm not going to discredit that. However, the business of the NBA, if they say that they have to start on Christmas Day so they can have a season, so they can save this
Yeah, they're gonna
2020
have to start on
2021
Christmas Day.
season,
Here's the thing, though,
they
man,
have to do it.
because they're trying to push an MLK startup date, but because the MLK startup date, by a whole month, I think it is a few weeks. Yeah, they lose half of that revenue. So you got to. I mean, yeah, it's just too much, man. I just,
Yeah.
I
I'm just
understand that you're
disappointed.
busy, you got family, and it's like Danny Green always, he says this thing. I'm like, bro, why are you talking? Like, yeah, we're gonna take a month, and then you're not only talking for yourself, you're talking on behalf of all the Lakers, right? Well, LeBron says
Right.
he's gonna. Well, let LeBron talk for himself. Don't,
Right.
because now he becomes a product, because he's the most scrutinized player in NBA history, and I am part of that that group. But I wish LeBron would say, yeah, I don't want to start in December. We just come up a championship. I was like, bro, you had a 4-month break between the middle of the season and that bubble. And so I understand, but if you want your money, you're gonna have to play, man. That's just my thoughts on it.
But just
Everybody has
just
to
look at it.
sacrifice.
Just look at it from a fan perspective. If the best player in NBA history says that he's not going to play for a month because he needs rest, and there's only 72 games in the season, I mean, just how does that look? It doesn't set a good example for the young generation of players coming in.
Right.
And it doesn't set an example for the rest of the league. And if the players decide to do whatever it is that they feel is right, and they do it as a union, and they get the players association behind them, then that's, to me, that's the best way to do it. But don't get on a TV show or a podcast or any kind of interview and go ahead and tell, what you're going to do and what the Lakers organization is planning on doing. Jared Dudley did the same thing. And look, man, nothing against
Jared
Jared Dudley,
Dudley,
but
why
he
is
didn't
always
even
the
play.
bench warmer? Why is always the people who ain't contribute always talking, on behalf? It's like, I listen, at the end of the day, money talks.
Money talks, yes.
If you can give all the reasons in the world why you don't want to do something. I guarantee you don't show up for that month of basketball, you ain't getting paid. And at the
Right.
end of the day, when your
Rightfully
pockets
so.
are hurting, yeah. So
And
I
rightfully
don't want to
so.
hear it. I don't want to hear that excuse. Miami ain't giving that excuse, and nobody
No.
from that bubble saying, hey, that we don't want to start on Christmas Day. Now, whether they agreed to start on MLK Day, I think that's the end of January, bro,
Yeah.
yeah, you losing 200, $300 million, bro. Like the NBA ain't going to look at you and say, oh yeah, we feel sorry for you. Nah, you had a 4-month break in between the end of the season and when that bubble started. I understand that bubble was difficult for a lot of the players because it was abnormal. It wasn't, what they was accustomed to, but the wear and tear, the different time zones, none of that played a factor into that series. So there's no reason why you should not start in December, in December. And I understand that the reason why December is a perfect number, they're competing against the NFL. They're going to be, the Olympics is about to start. So the longer you push, back, the less games, the less revenue, less money that these players are going to make. So you got a contract, you got to play. If you don't want to, then just opt out and say, hey, I'm not going to play this season and whatever. I don't know what else to do, but yeah, I didn't know that Jared Dudley was talking, but Danny Green,
Jared Dudley was talking. I don't know, man. What do you think this means for NBA players and the Olympics next year? I mean, if the season starts in December and possibly doesn't end until June, the Olympics normally starts in the middle of July. I mean, are we going to have NBA players playing in the Olympics, or are we going to rely on
what we should have done
athletes?
from the jump start? I think we briefly talked about this in our private conversations, but NBA players playing in the Olympics doesn't mean as much as it did in the late 90s, early 2000, the Redeem team and all of that. So I understand that a lot of guys are going to be entering into, ending the NBA season and then the Olympics start. We should have already created like a glorified AAU team that is committed to playing for the US, that's going to compete in the Olympics. And because what we have seen happen is that we're plugging guys in, there's no chemistry, and we're not, playing at a high level. I think that they need to take like the 3-star, 4-star players and keep these Cooper guys to play together and have them be the face of the Olympics. So that way stuff like this doesn't happen, and give those guys a shot. A lot of the reasons why USA basketball has struggled with a lot of these teams internationally is because these guys have been playing together for 10, 12 years. Right. And the reason why we win, the reason why we win is because we have superior talent. But if our talent is not there, we saw what happened. What was it in 2006, I believe, where we had Carlos Boozer and Steffi Marbury and Allen Iverson. We was in third, fourth. We didn't even make it out of the World Championship round. So, yeah, I understand. I don't think those players are gonna, opt in. That's why I think they needed to kind of create a farm system, or these players are going to be committed to USA basketball that's going to play year round and, build a good team that can represent the country and is going to play well. So that's my thoughts. But, Danny Green, I don't know the chances of you listening to this, man, but just, I appreciate your work, but just, you sound spoiled, bro. Like you making too much money, man. I don't make no money. I want to, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? If they telling me, hey, you got to start in January, hey, December, whatever. All right, I got to do it. You're making good money for you not to be complaining. And at the end of the day, as a business, your boss tells you go to work, you got to go to work, But shout outs to, Danny Green and to the NBA players who have been a voice, during this social climate, especially of injustice with, the things that have been happening with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, advocating for being a voice for the Black lives that hasn't mattered to America. And so we're going to be concluding this podcast episode, and we just want to encourage all of our watchers and listeners to go out and vote. We know that we are living in a time that if we don't exercise our voices now, when will we exercise our voices? And so one of the greatest ways to exercise our voice isn't simply by posting your thoughts on Facebook or going to marches. You have to go out there and vote, guys. So ironically, we were, I'm wearing red, Jono's wearing blue. It was not scripted, but it kind of shows whether you vote for red or whether you vote for blue, go and exercise your right to vote. Go be a change. And so we just want to leave off with those final thoughts. Jono, any things you want to leave? Last to our listeners?
I agree, man. Whether you vote independent or you write in or Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be. I early voted and just being able to see that my vote counted, it made me feel good. It made me feel like my voice was heard. It made me feel like that I practice the right that I have in this democracy in this United States. So for those who have not voted, or for those who are on the fence about voting, whether you dislike candidates or dislike any policies in your areas, just know that your votes do count, and your votes will always count. Please exercise that right, and you have a couple days left here to go vote.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you guys go exercise that right to vote. Be the voice, be the change. And yeah, let's make this country a better place that is going to be equal for everyone who lives in it, right? Whether it be white, black, Latino, Democrat, Republican, immigrants, whatever. We want a fair and honest, system, and a fair and honest country that everyone can experience the same justice for all, as our motto here in America is, man. So until next time, guys, this is wrapping up our podcast episode of Bench Warmers. This is your boy
Number
Lo.
2.
All right. My boy
This
Jono.
is Jono.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. Anything that helps us. We'd love to hear back from our viewers. Until next time, peace out.
Peace.